artist, and I'm going to be leading you guys through how to make this time a creative workflow for your 3D goals or whatever you're trying to do. Um, you know, with this, I'm going to be showing you a tried and true method in 3D world, but we're going to just be simplifying it with the use of Meshy, and then putting that in Blender, having fun with it, and putting it into AR. Last time we were kind of going more into, in the last two classes, how to build out a simple rig for that skeleton, get the jaw to move up and down, and deploy it into AR. This time we're going to be being more creative. This is more of a technique that can be utilized for so many different projects. So I actually have a couple different things already prepared for you guys to follow along with. Let me just share my screen real quick. I have to be approved, Rob, whenever you got that. So while that's getting approval, I will kind of just run you through the whole thought process here. One of the biggest things that was a revelation for me inside of cool, I can share my screen now. Perfect. Let me just do the entire screen. Share. Perfect. Okay. So one of the biggest revelations I had in the 3D world was to realize that, in the physical world, like it's often compared to when you're making 3D objects, it's like making clay and setting up a claymation or a clay scene, or if you've ever done that with little miniatures and stuff like that. But the problem with miniatures is you can't really just push them in together. They have physical bodies that, you can't really, they have boundaries towards each other. And while it's in 3D and in the three-dimensional world, you can literally slide objects directly into each other. And it was a technique that I got introduced to while making landscapes. You can mix multiple boulders and different grasslands and trees, and you would just stick them onto each other, kind of. And, sometimes there might be issues with the overlap of the meshes, which is easy to fix. But especially in the beginning, you don't have to worry about none of that. And so, what I want to show is just how much fun you can have, and also really your creativity and imagination can go wild in so many ways. Um, so biggest thing is I want to show you how the 3D world is just like setting up your own clay environment object, or if you were to do it physically in real life and place those little cute scenes or do little situations that you combine multiple objects into making a new scene or a singular object, but it's comprised of all these different pieces. So one of the good examples so I'm not going to go through exactly today of the image generation process and then putting that into Meshy. We did that through the last two times. So we're going to go from there, assuming that you guys have followed along and you know how to do that. Essentially, I made a couple different objects. I'm not going to go with these ones. We're going to just delete that. I didn't like how they came out. Trash. This one to trash. And then I went ahead and kind of made a couple different things that we could explore with. So these two are a good mixture of how you can mix two different. I don't know if my screen went off. Here, I think I got my screen went off. Let me share it again. Sorry about that. Okay, so if we go here, I have this marble statue that is sticking out of a rock. But if you notice at the very top, it's cut off, and at the bottom, it's cut off as well. So if I were to put this into a 3D generator, we get this result, which is really cool. I love it, but it's like cut off. You see how the edges are all cut off and everything like that. It's not a full mountain. So if you wanted a full mountain, this is the technique. You can make a multiple generations until you get that one right, and then you see it the way you want it. Or you can grab that one, he's perfect the way he is, and generate another mountain. So that's what I did here. I generated this mountain image, and I placed it inside of Meshy right here. So now we have two pieces of the puzzle, in my opinion. So we have the marble sticking out, the statue guy right here. And then we also have where we generated this rock of the full piece, the full comprised thing of what that would look like. So essentially what we're going to do is just match them up together. And I'll show you how simple that is. All we have to do is And again, if you're following along with the last times, I'm always optimizing. So I get this heavy, big mesh, which with this one is like 530,000 faces. And I got that down to 5,000. So it's like optimize that, texture it, to follow along like how we did last week until we get this really, very simplified version that's going to run really well on your computers or on your phone. And once we do that, I'm just going to go ahead and download them both. So I'm going to download this one. This is textured and it's been remeshed. Notice the faces. And we want that GLB file as well because it's going to contain everything all together in one. So I go ahead and put that in my downloads. And then I get the same thing. Oop, I'm going to do that. I get this one right here. And we're going to download this one as well. And you'll notice again, for this one, the faces are much less. And yeah, it's been remeshed and optimized. So we're going to download that. Okay, now that we have those two downloaded, I'm going to jump into Blender and we're going to just press all and then for A for all, selects everything, right? And then press X and it deletes it all. And then now here, I'm going to go into my downloads where we just got these two different downloads. Did it download correctly? Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. Okay, so now those should both be downloaded. And because they're GLB files, we can easily just grab them from our downloads folder and just drag them right in. So now we just empty this. This will pop up. We just import the GLB and boom. Now we have this one right here. This whole, doohickey. He's obviously doesn't look too great like this, but as soon as we put the textures on, he looks just fine. Very, very fine for many situations and definitely good for this. And then we're going to do the same thing for this other, this summit, this other piece right here. Go ahead and drop that out of it. Import that. And now we got two pieces of the puzzle. So this is, again, it seems like a simple thing. And it seems like maybe even an obvious thing, but this is something you could do so much with this technique. And this is the very bare bones, but then I'll go into where you can get more advanced with it. So right here, if I go and this is something I also want to kind of establish with this class is that I want to kind of go over basic navigation tools to work with Blender. Because anybody who is in Blender, once you're in here, it's like, okay, cool. How do I move things? I know when I first started, I would just grab it and I would drag it. I'd be like, what's going on? That's not how we do it, right? It's the G button. G for grab. Okay, if anybody didn't know that, well, now you do. And then escape if you don't want to do anything. And then same thing here, just G if you want to go anywhere with that. Now, the problem with that is we were running into with the skull last time is that 3D space can be confusing, right? When you grab, you don't really know which angle you're grabbing from. I could grab it in that way and all kinds of stuff. So what we always try to do is like work on solid ground. So I'll it's a lot of words to basically just say you want to work on flat. You want to work flat either like this way, which is on the X plane, or Y, which you're facing forward now. This right here, if you click this, is you're getting the top view and the bottom view right here. So you can't go wrong with those views because you're basically forcing it to only move in one direction. So a lot of words to just basically say that, we have these two stacked up on top of each other. I want to move him a little bit forward so that he's embedded into the rock. And to do that, there's we could just click on this X here and press G to kind of move him forward, right? But then he can go up and down. So what I like to do is press G and then Y. It forces it to only go in the direction that I want it to go in, right? And we can do this even outside of that view. I can go in any view really. And if I press grab, but then I press the Y button, it forces it to only move on the Y axis. It's a really important detail, kind of a small one, but again, this is also going to be going over navigational key commands as well. So right off the bat, I kind of noticed that this mountain's a bit big. or a bit small. So I'm going to just press S to size them. And I'm going to get it to about there. It looks nice, nice and big enough. And then I'm going to press G, Y to pull him back. I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to click on this other mesh here. You can see, because he's kind of buried, so it's kind of hard to grab him. You can always just collect him here on the scene selector. And then I'm going to put him, and I'm going to press G, Y, and push him a little bit forward. So now we can kind of already see where I'm going with this. One's kind of embedded into the other. And there's some, a little bit of issues. Like, for instance, some of these cracks don't line up with this, and so we kind of have these little holes. So an easy way to do that, again, this is to show like navigation tools and also how you can manipulate these pretty quickly. I can grab this rock right here, and I can rotate him on the Z axis. So the Z is the going down, up and down. And if anything, I think it's worth going over the different rotations and the different axes right now. So this is rotate on Z. It's going to make it move like a, if it was spinning like vertically like that, that's rotating on the Z axis. If we rotate it on the X axis, we're going to have it kind of go like that. It's like slanting backward and forward, like you're tilting it. And then if we go and we rotate on the Y, we're tilting it on the other direction, like you're a steering wheel tilting it. So these are things that take a second to get used to. But when you do, it's very freeing, and you don't really have to think about it twice. So real quick, I'm going to show you just like my workflow and how quickly I could set this up now that I showed you, those basic tool navigation key commands. And then also I want to just double down on the G, which is grab. You can grab also, just like we did on the rotating on the different axes, you can grab on all the different axes as well. So you can G and then press X. Now it's locked to the X, right? We can press G and on the Y like we did earlier, lock to the Y. And we can do G to the Z, and it locks it up and down. So this is, really, really helpful to maintain a very accurate moving of any of these objects. So I'm going to go ahead, like I said, now that I've explained that, and I'm say it as I do it, but it's going to be pretty quick, but just to show you how fast you could do this and how quick and easy it is. I'm going to pull this up and put them to the peak, rotating on the Z. I say about right there, right? And then G, Y, to just pull it right where we want it. And then this guy, since he's kind of embedded there, I don't like how he's sticking in out that way, we can also rotate him on the X, kind of lean him back, and then GY, pull him in. Now we have more embedded figure into the rock, right? And if we ever so choose, we could size that too. And boom. And now we mix both of these to create a singular object, which could have taken a minute on Meshy, right? To get it to just right. And even on here, we have options, right? Say for instance, I wanted to size this rock. He's a little too long like that, or he's a little too wide right there. I could size him on the Y, push him in a bit. GY, push that in, right? And so we get a lot more control inside of Blender by doing that. And a lot of times when I'm making movements in Blender, I'm always doing it very methodically with a lot of accurate measurement. Just because at first it can be a little bit much, but then once you start thinking X, Y, and Z for everything, your brain just starts, I guess, like being used to it, right? It just accepts it, and it just goes with the flow. But I think there's even a little bit of science to that, where your brain's actually able to perceive 3D space inside of the digital world after a longer time with it. But easiest way to get that down was X, Y, and Z. Always thinking of that. Okay, so right here is another method that everyone's probably going to run into when you're meshing multiple pieces together. See, for instance, look at that. See how that's not really pushing in there, right? It looks almost really good right here in certain areas, but like that right there is not really pushing in, right? It's very simple to fix this with Meshy. And so I'll show you is a little bit of sculpting. but this little sculpting is all you're going to really need to get where you need to go. So the big issue to me seems like this rock right here, but also we could also look at it as this is the mountain is the issue. So if anything, we want to pull these guys together. We want to push the model into the mountain, and we want to push the mountain into the model. And by working both ways into it, we're going to create an overlap, which will make it a lot more seamless. Very simple. All we got to do is click on this. I got this model right here. And I want to press Control Tab to go into sculpt mode this time. This is one mode we have not done yet. And usually you might stay away from this in beginning, but these two tools, seriously all you need, and they're super simple to use. So we're going to ignore so really the tools that you get in sculpting mode. Let me go back into that again one more time so you saw I did that. Object mode, and I select any object. I have to select an object first. Then I press Control, and then I press Tab. Opens up all of these options, and we're going to just go to this sculpt mode. Now in sculpt mode, we have all these different tools at the bottom. We don't need none of that. What we're going to focus on is just, these tools right here. This one, the elastic grab, and the grab. And then some, we might do this grab 2D, but really just these two, grab and elastic grab. This is going to be our general purposes for most things for this technique. So if you notice here, when you put your mouse on, it's like trying to, see that circular pattern or that circle? It like forms to all the different faces on the 3D model. So you can see how it's like moving around it. Very neat. So you can kind of get a sense of what you're going to grab based on that yellow dot that it's, if you see that closely, there's a yellow dot. That's the point of which it's trying to grab. And if you notice also the circle that I'm using is a bit small. So all I have to do to make that yellow circle bigger so it grabs more of an area, you press F and boom, look at that. I can make that way bigger so I have a lot more surface area that I'm grabbing. I want to put it about there because I plan on grabbing quite a bit when I make this move, maybe even a little bit more. And now if I go into this top view so I can see it more accurately, I can pull this sucker back like that. And now we have that whole part, instead of it looking really chunky and, really flat at that moment, we've kind of married it and pushed it into the rock. Now, we could do the opposite thing, or it's the same thing, but with the rock, push the rock into the model. So if I go here, I go into the rock now, right? You have to select it, press Control Tab, go to Sculpt. You can still have this top view right here, right? Now I want to go to the mountain, and I want to push the mountain forward into the model like this. See that? It's really simple. Nothing crazy here. I actually used the same tool both times, this elastic grab tool. Just want to make sure it has a big enough area that it's grabbing, and you just push them into each other. And look at that. Now that seam, it's still there, but it's not nearly as noticeable. And we can kind of just massage both sides. Go back to this model, go to Sculpt, and boom. Right, and then same thing for here. We just kind of grab that, push that down. You just push it down. See this? It's very simple and very intuitive. I'm not having to think about it too much. Just pulled it down and boom. Now they're kind of both really solidified into each other, and the seams you can't even tell too much. So this is again something we do in 3D all the time. When you're making scenes, you are, putting rocks and boulders together. You'll have grasslands that you'll mix in with swampy areas and waters. It's all just pushed in together. It's all massaged, and there might be like artists will, these points right here where things are touching, when you get really advanced, you'll make those transitions cleaner or make more sense. For instance, this is a marble, so you'd imagine there'd be some water damage along the sides here. So, if you ever wanted to get into that, you could continue adding those pieces. But this is good for general purpose for most things. It's really cool, really impressive. I can cut this part down. There's a lot of things we can do from this point, but I think this really shows this example of what you could do by, instead of fighting, the image generator to get what you want, you can just grab two pieces, smush them together, and the sculpting mode looks a little bit much. It's seriously the simplest part of this whole thing. Um, you know, uh, I'm going to go into one more example to kind of show this real quick. So I'm going to just grab these two. This is kind of it for showing you how you can mold these two things. And I really, this is one that I kind of went real hardcore with my piece for the Echoes of Freedom. I had multiple boulders that are stacked on top of each other with a floating pedestal, which is like a spaceship's pedestal. And then I added a Statue of Liberty arm, and I chopped that off, put it into the rock, and then all these things it was like a Frankenstein of all these pieces that eventually then when you see it all together, it all forms into one singular piece. So this is the technique for that. And so I'm going to show one more thing to kind of just drive it home and to show you how simple this could be too, is I made already two other objects. Let me bring these up. So if we go here, this is kind of more of another classic example. So I have a spaceship here that I generated. I already textured it, and I also optimized it so it only has 6,000 faces. And then I also created this ring. Check this out. This ring right here is another one optimized and textured. We're going to combine these two together, just like we did with the skull, and create an animation very simply that will really drive this home in a much better way. So let me show you what I mean by that. So if I go to this spaceship, press download again like I did the GLB file, do the same thing once it comes up. Oh, there it is. And then the same thing here. And get these two downloaded. And then I'll go real quick just so you guys can see how I'm pretty good at one-shotting most of my generations. So as you see, I have a pretty standard way of doing it. Object, detailed, and then with a plain background. It was always a big detail for me in all my generations, but it one-shots every time because you're not confusing the image generator. So if you look back here, little quick tip, all of these images have a plain black background, and that has worked for me flawless every time. So now that I've downloaded these and got these ready, let's go back into Blender. And now I'm going to get this spaceship. Put that. Right, now we got him. And then we're going to get that torus, that spaceship ring that goes around it. So we'll add that in as well. So right off the bat, pretty cool, but already an issue. We're going to fix that by the navigation or I call it navigation, but you know, how you're able to manipulate things, how we were going over before. Very simple. All we have to do is click on this torus right here, and we can rotate it. Remember, as we said before, we want to rotate it almost like we're rotating something on a pedestal, right? So to do that, that's actually on the Z-axis. Rotate on Z, and now we can place that right there. So another thing I like to do is I like to be very accurate with when I do any type of placing. So you could look at it and it's like, oh, that looks right just about there. But then you look sideways and it's like, oh, it's all crooked. So what I like to do is go rotate on the Z exactly 90 degrees. Now, boom, that's going to be a perfect dead on 90-degree ring around this spaceship that we have here. Now, at this point, this is a really nice spaceship. A lot of times they'll have this where they'll have a spaceship going through the center, and then you have this torus that circles around it. This would have been a much bigger build anytime in the world, but now with AI and Meshy, you just saw how I did it. Just plop these two in, rotated this ring. Now check this out. This is going to be a simple animation that we do here, similarly to when we did the skull. We're going to talk about loops for a second. So I'm just going to put see right here, I'm just, this thing right here, this line, this where it says playback, I just pull this up. Now I get access to the timeline and all that. What I want to do is I want to click on this, make sure you're on frame 1. I'm going to click on that ring, And another thing, let's set the end time to 100 frames. So if you see here, we have a beginning or a start frame and an end frame. I'm going to set the end frame to 100 to make the math easy. And so I'm going to click on this torus. I'm going to press I. And then what that does is just like with the jaw and skeleton that we did, that's going to create that keyframe. And then I'm just going to go to the end. I'm going to go one off from that. So it's like 101. It's very important. That creates a seamless loop. But either way, what we're going to do now is we want to rotate it on this time. See, we could rotate it in any kind of ways. Rotation can kind of get confusing, which is why you always want to stick to the simple. Rotate on X, rotate on Y, and then rotate on Z. You get really used to it after a while. But right here, I'm just going to do rotate on X. So if you see on rotate on X, we have the ability to do exactly what we were wanting to do. So I'm going to just press undo there. And really what we want to do, and here's another really big distinction, a really big point. Anytime you get something on Meshy, this is something that confused me for a minute when you're trying to, animate any of this stuff. By default, for whatever reason, I have yet to figure that part out, why they do this. When you have a Meshy object, if you go into this little orange button right here on Blender, this mode right here that it's set on, Quaternion, is bad news bears. We do not want this. This is so confusing, and you don't need to know why. We just need to switch it. So if we go click on our Meshy object, click on this this orange square, and then we go to the mode. We're going to click on that and just put XYZ Euler. Now everything's back to simplicity. Everything's easy again. So we probably should have done that at the very beginning before I even made any keyframes. So I'm going to go press that, X that out, delete that keyframe. And now we're on no keyframes made. It's very important to switch it to Euler. And now we're in that mode. We're going to press on this Meshy object, press I, and then we're going to go to the end of the scene, and then we're going to go off to 101. And now if you go over to the rotation here on this this orange box, we can actually manipulate the rotation straight from here. So we have that ability on the X, and then we have on the Y. So really cool. So that's what we want, is the Y. And right there, if you know about geometry, 360 is a full circle. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to go here, click on this, and actually type in 360 degrees. Press enter. It's orange right now because the keyframe has not been solidified or locked in. We just click on this button right here, boom, and now it's 360. So, and now if we click on the beginning, we go to the beginning and we press play, we now have an infinite loop of that circular object revolving around the spaceship. And it'll be perfect always. So I'm gonna go through that one more time just because, there's a lot of explaining or different context to bring to it. So I'm gonna do it one more time slowly, and then I'll definitely answer any questions that you guys might have. But I'm gonna go ahead and just delete the keyframes that we already did. Press X. So now that we're in this state again, we have this guy right here. No animation's done. Press I. That inserts a keyframe. We're going to go to the end again. Go to 101 by pressing the right arrow. Takes us to, if you see right here on the playhead, it's 101. And then we're going to go over to the Y rotation and put that to 360. Enter. And then we're going to lock it in by pressing this that keyframe button. So now it's gold to switch from orange to gold, so that lets you know that it's locked in. And now we have our spaceship with the ring. So essentially, that's what I kind of just wanted to illustrate with this class, is that it's really up to you how you can figure out how to divide and conquer even very complex projects or things that you have in your mind. You could fight the image generator for a minute, and it's like, yeah, you could definitely get it, but it's so difficult, especially for very detailed things or very specific things or anything that's metaphorical, that you're like, it's just not getting it, build it yourself. Build out the pieces. Get the one of the cool things I got for the Echoes of Freedom one that I did is I generated a whole set of pipes. And then I got the pipes just like I showed you how to manipulate with the mountain to push things in and out. I got those pipes and I pushed them in and I arranged them and situated so it looked like the pipes were holding the piece together. So, with Meshy being around, we had to use most of the any other time we would have to go to asset library or make the assets ourselves in order to then do what I just said. So this is a 3D technique that's been in use for a minute. But now everyone has access to unlimited libraries of anything they could think of and anything they could generate with their image generator. So it really is a fun time. You could really play around with it, have fun, add all kinds of stuff. Put this, what's not to say that this is an ancient spaceship checking out this giant rock right here. We rotate that, put this on the Y right here, have that kind of like looking at it, and then we create this whole scene. Oh, geez. That's because, let me put this on, excuse me. We go to Y, rotate Z, okay, okay. We could have this guy right here kind of hovering over here. I'd have to animate that better. But essentially, like, you can make a playing field, a whole scene. And especially with AR, the whole 360 view is your canvas. So that's something I like to do sometimes in my artworks is I'll have the front view be showing one thing. So you're placed in the center right here, right, as the viewer. And then when you turn your camera around or turn around to see, you have a secret on the other side, right? And so AR allows you to play in a playground of and view all kinds of things from all different sides. So that's something I did with a piece for Miami. It was an alien ship that was out of camera or out of view, and you had to tilt your camera up for you to see the spaceship. So, there's a lot of cool things that you could do by setting up your scene and blocking it out like that. Now, I will say once we're in this part, we'll have all these different objects. The exporting is the exact same way. We're just going to select everything, select all. Right, now that we have our scene the way we want it, and we're going to press export. Let me just go through these settings one more time. I know we've done it, but I've had some questions about it, so I definitely, this is a great time for me to go through it again. Let's just see here. I'm going to put this on the desktop for now and call this class 3 or class 3. There we go. And now we're going to remember export settings. This is a big one. And we're going to include only selected objects. I like it that way. It makes it very clean. Just remember that. You have to select all of them, the ones that you want to export. Then on transform, you could leave that alone. Data, we'll mess with this a little bit. All we really want to do is go into the materials. And when we put the materials setting, we want to have them as a WebP format and the image. And the image quality, I put it at 25. It's totally fine. And then we can just ignore the rest. Go down to materials, to compression. Press compression. Don't have to do anything there. That's totally fine. And then animation. This is where probably, it might be confusing. It's not bad at all. Just follow this. If you press the drop down, animation mode, we want those active actions merged. And then this checkbox that says bake all object animations, click that. That's basically saying we want all the objects to be kind of combined into one and all their animation sequences to play at the same time. Because a lot of times we have multiple animations in a 3D object. For instance, when you want to run or when you want to sit or when you want the humanoid thing to drink water, those are all locked inside the GLB and they play when you ask them to be played. So for a video game, when you go up or down, it's going to create those different animations. We don't need none of that. We want all the animations to all play at the same time, all together. So that's why we press bake all object animations together all at once. And so that's a little bit of explanation, but all you need to know is active actions, merged, baked all object animations. And then the rest and ranges, you just want to click limit to playback range. It just means that it's not going to go past 100 frames. Because essentially the animations can go on and on. This makes sure it stays to the frames that you've set. But yeah, just click that box. And then the next one is right here. It says slide, leave that alone. And then after that, yeah, that's basically it. We can press export GLB. Gonna be a second. Let alone. Yeah, okay, so now that's done. Might be a bit bigger because there's a couple of meshes in there with all of um, their materials. So if I go here to, or is it saved under? Yeah, class GLB, and I just click on info for that. To make sure. Yeah, we're at 4 megabytes. So even though we had that mountain, we had that statue with the marble, we had all those things going. The spaceship, we've got that all still under 4 megabytes. And that's largely due to the compression that we did with the materials. The Meshy tends to really beef up, or it's really big file, the texture that they give you. By us just dropping that down, the image quality, and turning it into a WebP, massively reduces that. And so, yeah, all of that actually fit into 4 megabytes. And now we can go into illust again. Perfect. And then we're going to create a new AR experience. We're going to upload a 3D model and go to desktop, class 3, import class. We're going to name it class 3. Let it load. Author is me. All right, generate the slug. Save it. Let's just do files -3. There it is. And save. Perfect. Okay, so now we have this inside of our Illust Studio. I'm going to just reload the page so we can see it better. There it is. Okay, so now we have the whole scene right here. One thing you're going to notice is that this is our playing field, this floor. So we don't want this to go underneath the floor. It's going to make things not, work as expected. So we just go over to world tracking, and we can just actually pull this up. I'd say about 3. You could also do this in Blender. 2. Yeah, that's good right there. 2.1. Perfect. Okay, and so now global experience. That's the way I like it, and save it. And now we've created this scene that if you were to go into, let's go here into simple AR preview, you'll see that mountain in front of you, but if you turn around, you'll see the spaceship behind you. And this kind of just goes into show, like, again, what you could do creatively to set up these scenes and to mesh multiple objects to make a single object or a single scene. And really, your creativity is, I mean, it can go wild. You can do so many things with this. And that's where, like, all games, all everything, everything that you've ever played where you're in immersive reality is somebody who's essentially done that, just stacked up all these 3D different objects and made a world with it. The biggest thing I'd say that is the gate to that is the ability to be comfortable with navigating the 3D realm. So yeah, it's looking great on my side. If I turn around, I see the spaceship behind me, and yeah, it's one of those cool things to really experiment and play with. And yeah, I hope you guys got something from this one. It's a bit of one that like trying to get a little bit for everyone. Some for the advanced guys and gals, and some for people just starting out to kind of show, yeah, it's really not that bad, especially when you start having fun with 3D. And you could also do this with characters. So, for instance, with that skull that we did, you could generate a mohawk, put the mohawk on the skull. You could go buck wild with all kinds of things. Just think of it as all these different pieces of the puzzle that you want to push together, and the sky's the limit after that. And it's actually a lot easier to do it like that because you have more control over each individual piece, versus when it generates all together. We have to do what we did with the jaw, where we have to separate the jaw. Excuse me, what we did with the skull, where we had to separate the jaw from the skull, and there's a couple of extra added steps. But when you approach it with everything already in pieces, and you just piece it all together, it's amazing the kind of stuff that you can Frankenstein and stitch together. So that would be it for this class. Hope you guys enjoyed it.